Hello, it's Ben here, and today we're going to look at the Test 2 IELTS essay. So let's take a look at the question first. Increasing the price of petrol is the best way to solve growing traffic and pollution problems. To what extent do you agree or disagree? What other measures do you think might be effective? Now, before I start to discuss the essay, what I usually recommend, and what I recommend now, is that you take a look at the essay on your own. So I'm going to show you the whole essay. And if you can, pause the screen and read it. And think about what score you would give it. It's good practice to see how much it will match with the score that I estimate for this one. So this is the first slide, which is the introduction. This is the second, which is the first body paragraph. This is the third, which is the second and final body paragraph. And this is the fourth and final slide and fourth paragraph, which is the conclusion. When scoring, remember to look at the public version of the IELTS Writing Band descriptors if you can. Make sure you get the Test 2 ones, not the Test 1 ones. I know it might be a bit small on your screen, but we're going to look at these together at the end. And I'll zoom in a bit to make it bigger then. Okay, so let's take a look together. So, introduction. It's obvious that one of the highest priorities today is to find a solution to the various environmental problems threatening mankind. While it's sometimes argued that it would be effective to raise the cost of petrol to reduce traffic and gas emissions, I personally disagree with this idea. What's good about it? Is there a clear argument? Yes. Some people think this. I disagree. Is there some good vocabulary? Yes. Highest priorities. Gas emissions. Problems threatening us. Raise the cost of. So there's a good understanding of things like collocation, words that go together, understanding that high often goes with priorities. There's already some good grammar, a long complex sentence beginning with while. Is it perfect? Not really, but it's good overall. So what would I change? I kind of feel that saying various environmental problems doesn't deal with the whole question, because traffic problems are related to other things like possibly noise, but mainly I think delays, not being able to get to work on time, having difficulty getting around where you live. Of course, the vehicle emissions from cars and other vehicles are related to pollution problems, but it's not the only problem related to traffic. So that's one issue. Another one is maybe, instead of mankind, I would say humanity or humankind. It's not a mistake. A dictionary will tell you that mankind refers to both men and women, but it's a bit more modern to use words like humankind, just in the same way that we don't really say businessman and businesswoman anymore. We say business person. We tend to use more gender-neutral language. But overall, this is a pretty good introduction, I feel. So moving on to the first body paragraph. To begin with, there are arguments in favour of increasing the price of petrol. One of the reasons can be that people are likely to use more public transport than automobiles if governments increase the price of petrol by imposing more taxes on it. It's said that one of the major causes of air pollution in cities is car use. Accordingly, increasing the tax level on petrol might help curtail the amount of carbon dioxide we produce and slow down the rate of global warming and air pollution. So quite good overall in terms of the word choice, using less common words like automobiles instead of cars. Although you could argue that traffic is also related to other vehicles, I suppose, like motorcycles. Again, understanding collocation, the verb impose with taxes, understanding the grammar, that if there's an object, we have this dependent preposition on, impose taxes on something. Curtail is quite nice. I haven't seen that word much from my students. Limit or restrict or mitigate. It's nice that I like that. Again, it's not perfect, but there's lots of good things here. So at the beginning, there are arguments in favour of increasing the price of petrol. So do I know what the paragraph's going to be about? Yes, definitely. The good things about the suggested approach, the potential benefits. And it's quite nice too, arguments in favour of doing something. The opposite would be arguments against doing something. So the writer's not necessarily saying these are great arguments, just saying these are what people tend to argue, which is quite a nice way of doing it. Arguments doesn't really mean the same thing as reasons, so I don't really understand the logical jump from saying one of the reasons for what? Reasons for increasing the price of petrol, but again, I'm just going to say one is, because we've been talking about arguments. One is, like one argument is. I don't really get the can be either. Why can be? One is that people are likely to use more public transport than automobiles if governments increase the price of petrol by imposing more taxes on it. It said that one of the major causes of air pollution in cities is car use. It is said that, well, it's pretty generally understood, so maybe it's clear that would be slightly better, according to research and scientific studies. The tax level, I've not really heard too much. We usually just say increasing taxes. I'm going to say increasing the tax levied. I'm going to use the verb levy in the passive form. Levy a tax on is basically the same as impose a tax on. And the rest is pretty good, but it talks at the end about slowing down the rates of global warming and air pollution. But as far as I'm concerned, the issue with air pollution from cars is not only that it's very unpleasant to breathe, but the air pollution contributes to the effect known as global warming. It contributes to that phenomenon. So these are kind of connected, but air pollution comes logically before global warming. Air pollution from cars is related to vehicle emissions containing CO2 and other greenhouse gases like methane. And those greenhouse gases contribute to the greenhouse effect, which is basically when, if I remember my science lessons at school correctly, is basically when rays of light from the sun enter the Earth's atmosphere, but they kind of get trapped and they can't leave because of these greenhouse gases. So the effect is like a greenhouse, a real greenhouse where the internal temperature starts to warm, basically, starts to increase. So the Earth gets warmer, and that's what global warming is. To be honest, it's slightly more modern to say climate change these days. I heard the reason, I don't know if this is true, but I heard the reason is that too many people thought global warming sounds nice. It'll be nice and warm in the winter. Climate change sounds scarier. A lot of people heard global warming and didn't take it seriously enough. But anyway, that's not the main issue here. So let me just change this. So this is blue because it's about logic. So red is my mistakes one, black, make better. Blue is more about logic. If I ever use green, that's about formality, style. So reduce air pollution and in turn, so as a consequence of that, in turn, I will show you some green now. Decelerate is a bit more academic than slow down, which sounds a bit informal. Decelerate global warming. So rate is kind of the speed. D is go down, or drop, like decrease. If you drive a car, you know that you accelerate when you go faster. Decelerate is the opposite. So I think that would be a slight improvement for the end of the paragraph here, which overall is pretty good, as I said. However, one of the best options that can be taken is to develop and invest in renewable energy. It does not only have to be done by the governmental level, but also the general public, and also initiate actions. They can buy the equities or bonds of the electricity or utility companies supplying the energy, so that the companies can devise components for the equipment that's needed to create power that does not burn fossil fuels. As a result, electric cars are more likely to be affordable among motorists. This initiative would reduce and rectify the environmental damage around the globe in the long term. So first impressions, very good kind of grammar and cohesion. This all being one sentence and using relative pronouns, for example, to kind of tie it all together. Using nice connectives like so that. Again, very good vocabulary here, or lexical resource, I should say. Devise components, create power. Knowing less common language like equities or bonds, someone who really understands the world of finance in a way that, probably I don't as well. It might be a specialism of this writer. Knowing what utility companies are, companies which supply energy and supply water. Is it perfect? No, but, overall, it's very good. And, the things which aren't perfect, some of them are just like silly mistakes, like, typo, putting an instead of can. Another thing, when we say level, we usually say at the level. Sometimes on, but usually at. So it does not only have to be done at the governmental level, but also at the individual level. So the people in the general public, which is normal people, can also take action. Maybe I would change a couple of things, but it's not that it's wrong. I might just say equipment to create power. I don't really need to say that's needed. The grammar's nice. It's just, to make it tight, we could lose a few words because it's a very long sentence. So devise components for equipment to create power that does not burn fossil fuels. Well, yeah, so the power does not burn fossil fuels. It's the machinery, I suppose, that burns fossil fuels. So it does not involve the burning of fossil fuels. Apologies for my messy writing, typical teachers writing. The burning of fossil fuels. Okay, so again, keeps going. Nice language, understanding electric cars, affordable, nice vocabulary, using motorists instead of just drivers. So this initiative would reduce and rectify the environmental damage around the globe in the long term. Okay, so very good overall, I thought. In conclusion, it seems to me that increasing the level of taxation on fuel can possibly be a short-term solution to air pollution. Hence, individuals' efforts should be made to change their lifestyle to make the environment greener and redress the environmental issues. Well, not one individual, it's individuals plural, so we gotta use the apostrophe after the S. And a couple of other small things. Can only possibly be a short-term solution. Redress environmental issues. I don't think we need the word "the", because in this particular instance, we're not talking about specific ones, not in this sentence. So there's lots of things that I like about this one. And what I'm going to give it is overall 7.5, grammar 8, lexical resource 8, cohesion and coherence 7, task achievement 8, which is overall 7.5. And nearly 8, because if it got 8 in just one more part rather than 7, of course the average would have been 8. This should say lexical resource, not vocabulary, but it's just to make it more understandable for the video viewers who might not know the word Lexis. Okay, so what is a task response? Addresses all parts of the task pretty well. Yep, well-developed response with extended and supported ideas. Absolutely. Really goes into a lot of detail to support the arguments. So invest in renewable energy. Individuals can do that. This is what they can do specifically. Very, very good. Very, very clear. Does it present a fully developed position in answer to the question? Generally it does, but we've talked about issues like this, how air pollution is a contributor to global warming rather than a separate thing, and how traffic problems on all environmental ones related to air pollution. There are also issues with inconvenience and, potentially other issues too. But generally, I think it's a very well-reasoned, well-argued essay. Cohesion and coherence. The thing I would maybe question is whether it would have a clear progression throughout. And it generally does. But I kind of feel that it talks a lot about the good things of increasing the price of petrol. And it says if the government did this, fewer people would drive. And in turn, that would reduce air pollution, which is a good thing. And it would get the intended result. And then the writer moves on to say that investing in renewable energy is what we should do. And individuals can do all these things. And the conclusion is that individuals' efforts are what's really important. The level of taxation can only be a short-term solution. But I just felt that it wasn't dealt with in the actual body paragraph why it can only be a short-term solution. I mean, what came to my mind is, can't we do both? Can't we increase the price of petrol and encourage individuals to do all these things, like take an interest in renewable energy? Best options is good. I'm just going to change this to most practical options. If the writer does believe that this is impractical. But that's the thing, it's never explained why this is impractical. It's very, very positive in favor of increasing the price of petrol. And that's why I didn't give this higher. I wanted to give it higher because the cohesive features were very good. But for me, just with the paragraphing and the clear progression, it kind of got stuck at 7 because there wasn't a kind of... there is clear progression, but there's kind of a sudden swing. So I don't think it was kind of like perfectly cohesive and kind of skillful enough to be where it would need to be for 8 or 9, which is a shame because it would only need a few small changes, I think, together. Lexical resource, wide range of vocabulary, convey precise meanings, absolutely. We talked about how the collocation was great. I mean, we don't need to go over it again, but, you know, understanding equities and bonds and things like that. Nice language device components. Invest in renewable energy. There's lots of good stuff there. Grammatical range and accuracy, wide range of structures, yes. Majority of sentences error-free. I would say the majority, yes. I'm not really counting like minor typos. There's very small changes that I made. Small changes and few changes, to be honest. And in terms of the range of sentences, starts off strong, you know, using while, even in the introduction, to make a long, complex sentence. Skillful use of passive when it's required. All kinds of different grammatical and cohesive features. As we said, is able to kind of make these very long sentences, which are relatively tight. I mean, yeah, sure, I could maybe make it a bit briefer by deleting that, but I'd say I'm nitpicking, you know, focusing on very small issues. Overall, it's very, very good, this essay. Okay, I wonder how closely your scores match to mine. Feel free to leave a comment.